Lee and Perrins have now added Worcester sorcery to tomato ketchup. Introducing tomato sorcery. Lee and Perrins tomato ketchup.
For famous names, there's only one name you need. The Capital Shopping Centre, Cardiff. Our mix of fashion, high street and speciality shopping is unique, whilst our service brings a smile. With cuisine for all the family. The biggest names for a great night out. The Capital Shopping Centre, Queen Street, Cardiff. Everybody knows our names.
Hello, BT. Ray Burden speaking. How can I help you?
Yeah, my phone isn't working. 081 464 0291.
OK, we can send someone round on Tuesday.
Right. So that's a week tomorrow?
No.
Oh, 2 weeks tomorrow. I thought it sounded a bit quick.
No, tomorrow.
What, tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow. Morning or afternoon?
Morning. Tomorrow morning.
Mystery death. Police question a man after a woman is stabbed through the heart. A brutal attack on the police as a crowd cheers. And a royal reward for Joan the Top Mop. Good evening. Detectives in North Wales are tonight investigating the death of a 32-year-old woman who was found stabbed through the heart at her home at MAIR in Gwynedd. At first, police thought they were dealing with a case of suicide, but this afternoon a man walked into a London police station and is now being held for questioning.
North Wales Police haven't named the dead woman yet, but it is understood that she's lived here at Hafod Beach Road in Perrins for some time with her sister. Police and ambulance were called here at about 2 o'clock this morning, and the body was taken for a post-mortem examination carried out by Home Office pathologist Dr. Donald Waite at Ysbyty Gwynedd in Bangor, about 10 miles away. It's understood that she was stabbed through the heart. At first, it appears that police thought it had been a suicide, but that all changed dramatically this afternoon when a man walked into a police station somewhere in London, and he's been kept in custody and is being questioned further by police. The inquiry is being conducted by Chief Superintendent Gwyn Williams from North Wales Police, and the death is being treated as suspicious. Forensic experts are still investigating at the scene, and the house-to-house inquiries are still being carried out by uniformed officers. Further reports are expected later this evening, but so far, details are extremely sketchy.
A crowd watched and cheered in a Cardiff street as 2 policemen were brutally attacked by men armed with a machete and a hammer. The 2 officers were trying to break up a fight in the Llanrumney district of the city when the men turned on them. The crowd jeered as they were kicked and beaten. Senior police said their men could easily have been killed during the attack.
The 3 horrific weapons recovered by the police show they claim how close to death the pair could have come when they were set upon as they answered a routine call in Hazlitt Close. Both officers are still off duty and say they feel angry and bitter that the people not only turned their backs on them but cheered the attackers on.
As he came for me with the weapon, I put my arm up to deflect the blow. It hit me on the wrist and then deflected into my head.
And how do you feel now, thinking about it in the cold light of day?
A little bit bitter that people could be so cynical as to stand by and watch us be assaulted in this way and do nothing about it themselves.
The pair were so brutally assaulted that a knife used in the incident snapped with the force of the blow. Today, senior officers condemned the locals who they say were egging on the 2 men to attack the police.
This was a very, very vicious and violent attack by 2 men armed with what can only be described as really brutal weapons.
What's the feeling within the division that such things could happen to your officers?
We live in a violent world, and these things do happen from time to time. I would like to stress that this was probably an isolated incident and is no way connected with Llanrumney in general. But nevertheless, it is extremely disturbing, and we're very, very distressed about it. We're frankly, with the level and veracity of the attack, they're very lucky to be alive.
Detectives are continuing to question 2 men at Rumney Police Station in connection with the incident.
Well, Inspector Dave Powell of the Police Federation, what's your reaction to this attack?
Well, personally, I'm very horrified over it. I mean, the one thing that really sickens me about this attack is the fact that the crowd standing up were encouraging the attack on the officers to take place.
What other examples like this have you come across?
Well, I can think two examples straight away, one of which was an officer not in the city who, following an attack on himself and an assault, he went on the sick. When he returned to work, he just couldn't face a confrontation type situation, and he resigned. Another officer that I know, again not working in the city, he was beaten so badly he momentarily died. Later on he came back to work, and a few years later he was run over by a car, 15 years service, no longer required in the job.
So what long-term effect can this have on officers?
Well, I think it can have serious long-term effects, and the Federation is very concerned about it. It's not just the assault, the actual injury that's caused, it's the psychological effects on the officer and, of course, on his family as well.
A crowd cheering as that attack was happening. Why is there such aggression against the police in certain areas?
I don't know why. It's the million-dollar question. What causes it? What's the answer to it? There isn't an answer to it, really.
But briefly, how does this affect the morale of police in the force when something like this happens?
Well, it's got to have a downward effect on the morale, because officers feel now that when they go into a similar situation, are they going to be the victim like these two officers were?
Mr. Powell, thank you very much indeed. A post-mortem has revealed that the 15-year-old Daniel Yoroth, the son of the Wales soccer manager, died of a rare heart disease which normally affects old people. Daniel collapsed and died on Monday while playing football with his father, Terry, at their home in Leeds. The Manweb Electricity Company, which serves North and Mid Wales, has launched a new business, selling gas. It's just signed a deal with a major North Sea consortium to supply industrial and commercial customers at prices which it says will undercut those charged by British Gas. In Cardiff, a spokesman for British Gas Wales said they welcomed the competition.
Manweb's move into the gas business follows the trend set by half a dozen electricity firms in other parts of Britain. Last year, its first as a privatised company, Manweb notched up profits of £57 million, supplying electricity to homes and businesses across North Wales and Merseyside. Now, with the government encouraging more competition in the power industry, Manweb has signed up to buy gas from the big North Sea Consortium alliance, which includes BP. And through a new subsidiary, it aims to undercut British Gas in selling to businesses such as bakeries, leisure centres and medium-sized factories. Ironically, Manweb will rent British Gas pipelines to deliver its supplies, and it's hoping to land 30 major customers by October.
We believe that it's a natural extension of our business. We've been selling electricity for many, many years, as you're aware, and we believe that selling gas assists us to change from an electricity business into an energy business and thereby give a far better service to our customers.
Is this the start, then, of what some people might see as an energy war?
I wouldn't call it an energy war. It's, energy is now becoming a competitive market, and all energy companies are looking at ways and means of meeting their customer requirements.
But do you think we could see the day when you're supplying homes as well as businesses?
I think anything's possible, but it will be perhaps sometime in the future before we do that.
So far, it's not clear whether South Wales Electricity will follow Manweb's expansion into gas. But today, British Gas Wales welcomed the competition, saying it's committed to reducing its share of the business market and wants to compete on equal terms.
Rodri Morgan, the junior shadow energy spokesman, you're not happy with this at all. Why not?
Well, it's wall-to-wall cliches, isn't it, about competition and about the expanding energy market. Basically, what Manweb appear to be doing is using capital which they've accumulated from collecting the electricity bills from you or me or North Wales and Merseyside customers to go into the gas market, when actually their customers who are paying the electricity bills don't want them to go into the gas market. They want lower electricity bills. They do not want these unwise diversification moves which nearly always finish up in tears. And it's their money that Manweb are misusing to get into the gas market instead of concentrating on the business that they know best.
On the other hand, of course, British Gas are welcoming it. They're calling it healthy competition, and they're saying that the customers will benefit. That's got to be a good thing, surely.
Well, then it depends what you mean by customers. Does it mean domestic customers from whom Manweb have collected the money in the first place, or business customers over 25,000 therms? I strongly suspect that what will happen, this will drive down gas prices to business users and increase gas prices to the ordinary domestic consumer. Now, if at some stage in the future ManWeb do carry out the threat that was mentioned in that interview of actually getting into the domestic customer market, then we have the problem. And do you or any other gas consumer actually want, A, the business of ordering your gas either from your electricity company or from your gas company, or even worse, the possibility of two separate gas companies digging up your road outside, which is not excluded by the government's madcap rush for competition in the gas market?
Mr. Morgan, thank you very much indeed. The head of Nuclear Electric has today been trying to ease fears over the future of Trawsfynydd power station, which has been shut down for more than a year while safety checks have been carried out. John Collier, the chairman and chief executive, said even if the plant was forced to close, there would still be jobs until the end of the century.
No electricity has been produced at Trawsfynydd for 15 months following the discovery of brittle welds in the steel reactor vessel. Last month, safety inspectors refused to allow the number 1 reactor to be restarted for a 6-month trial period until further safety work was carried out. And although Nuclear Electric are confident of getting clearance by the autumn, the setback has raised questions over whether the plant will ever operate again. Today, though, Chairman John Collier had a message of reassurance for the workforce.
Well, there will be work there under any circumstances for quite a considerable time. The power station will continue to generate power for a very considerable time. But even, of course, when it is eventually shut down, there still remains a number of jobs at the power station. There won't be as many as there would be when it's in full-time operation. But it takes about 5 years to defuel the reactor after it is finally shut down. So we're still looking at very considerable numbers of jobs, certainly up to the year 2000.
Mr. Collier has spent today at the other nuclear plant in North Wales at Wilver on Anglesey, and he says it has a bright future.
Wilver's going to be here a long, long time. It's the youngest of the Magnox power stations. It's operating exceptionally reliably. I'm very, very pleased with it, and really it'll be here well into beyond 2000, 2005.
A former environmental health officer says one of the top tourist attractions in Wales should be closed at once. GERAINT, who used to work for Llanelli Council, claims the Pembrey Country Park contains thousands of tons of sand contaminated with dangerous chemicals. He says the sand, left over from the ordnance factory that used to be on the site, was used to construct camping areas. The council has now ordered an investigation, but it says it won't close the park, which attracts 400,000 visitors every year.
Up until the mid-1960s, the 500-acre Pembrey site was occupied by a massive ordnance factory. Munitions manufacture had gone on for 80 years, and with it, according to former environmental health official GERAINT, the poisoning of the land. In particular, huge piles of pink sand, a byproduct of the process, which were later used in the formation of campsites in the country park, he says. Tonight, Mr. Rees, who now runs an independent laboratory service, claimed the potential health risk of the waste had never been studied.
The fact that we do not possess the knowledge of knowing what effect and how carcinogenic some of these compounds could actually be. It is only when we thoroughly understand what has actually taken place there and what is in the ground can a proper judgment and a decision be taken.
You feel they could be cancer-causing?
Well, certainly.
Why didn't you come forward with this before?
I was employed by Llanelli Borough Council. I was instructed not to.
Exactly who issued that instruction is not clear, but tonight Llanelli Borough Council, which operates the park, said it had surprised them. Already samples had been sent for analysis. Experts from Liverpool University were due on site in the morning. An extraordinary meeting of the council would be held next week. Local MP Denzil Davies had called for Welsh Office and Ministry of Defence inquiries. But shouldn't the park be closed as a precaution?
Well, it's taken the chap who's made the allegations 10 years to tell us about them. Obviously, if there's anything found there, the park would be closed immediately.
A fire which destroyed a classroom at a Clwyd school in the early hours of this morning is being treated as arson. Firefighters took nearly an hour to bring the blaze at HTV School in Wrexham under control. Despite their efforts, they couldn't save the single-storey wooden classroom or its contents. The MP for Montgomeryshire has urged police on both sides of the border to stop convoys of hippies moving into mid-Wales. Alex Carlisle fears an invasion from thousands of so-called New Age travellers who are leaving their camp at Castle Morton in Worcestershire. Mr Carlyle says farmers should keep out the hippies by spreading slurry on their fields. The pricing and advertising policies of one of Britain's biggest furniture chains came under the spotlight in court in Swansea today. Consumer protection officials in West Glamorgan have accused MFI of promoting bogus sales in which prices remain the same even after the sale ends. The company is denying 9 charges.
Consumer protection staff monitored the company's Llansamnat store in Swansea for 9 months. In particular, they watched prices during sales when a 3-piece suite said to be worth £1,200 was being sold for £800. Then they found when the sale period ended, the price remained the same. Some goods were never seen selling at the full marked price. In one case, the sale price of £849 actually fell by £50 once the sale was over. The prosecution also highlighted the company's Greaves and Thomas range of furniture, manufactured by a company said to have been established in 1905. The court was told the furniture in fact came from an industrial estate in Cardiff, Greaves and Thomas having been bought up by MFI 4 years ago and no longer trading on their own account. Barrister Leighton Davis for the council said the charges were indicative of a systematic conduct. They were in effect sample or specimen charges and not isolated incidents. That's a charge firmly rejected by the company MFI, who pleaded not guilty to each of the 9 counts. MFI Furniture Centres Limited, whose address was given in court as Edgware Road in London, faced 9 charges, 5 of giving a false price display notice, 3 of giving false newspaper adverts, and 1 of applying a false trade description to goods, all between May and October of last year. A 10th charge of conveying false information in advertisements was dismissed. The hearing resumes in the morning.
It's 6:15. Tonight's main headlines. Mystery death. Police question a man after a woman is stabbed through the heart. A brutal attack on a policeman as a crowd cheers. And still to come, a new crisis for the low-paid, a report warns. And a shining example. Joan the cleaner mops up a medal. Welsh Office Minister Sir Wyn Roberts has responded to protests over Severn Bridge toll increases by rejecting any government rethink of the charges. In an interview with our political programme Wales and Westminster, Sir Wyn says the tolls, which will keep on rising, are essential to pay for the new second Severn crossing.
In less than 5 years, the cost of crossing the bridge has multiplied. For cars, there's been a toll increase of 700%. Many business people who use the bridge regularly say the present position is jeopardising their livelihoods. In the wake of the recent outcry over the increases, though, the government doesn't seem willing to bend to those who are demanding a rethink.
The government has done all the thinking that required to be done and has put the present arrangements in place. And those who are paying now, obviously everybody objects to paying anything, but those who are objecting to paying are really objecting to the second Severn crossing.
Tonight's Wales and Westminster looks at the background to the Severn Bridge controversy and examines why tolls are charged while many major crossings are free. The programme looks at how tolls are set to escalate because of mistakes made almost 30 years ago. It also asks why a government pledged to competition and choice is prepared to set up a private monopoly, which opposition MPs describe as a licence to print money.
And you can see that special Wales and Westminster report on the political row over the Severn Bridge tonight at 7:30. The Shadow Welsh Secretary Barry Jones has warned tonight that some of the most poorly paid workers in Wales could lose what little protection they have. He fears the government may scrap the wages councils, which secure minimum pay. He's now demanding a full explanation. Wales is already at the bottom of Britain's wages league. And in what Mr Jones calls a dossier of shame, he suggests there's worse to come.
These contract gardeners earn around £75 for a 40-hour week. Their pay is more than £200 below the national average.
It works out about £150 an hour, yeah. We work about 40 hours a week, so...
It's tight sometimes, but other times it's okay. Like, because I'm living with a girlfriend, we're just getting engaged now next month, and we're thinking of starting our own place up, so we're trying to save every penny we can at the moment.
Are you managing?
Well, barely.
Wales has long lagged behind the rest of the country in the pay league, but Welsh workers are now the lowest paid in Britain, with average earnings of just £252, compared with a national average of £284. The European Social Charter recommends a minimum wage of more than £190 a week, but 40% of the Welsh workforce earn less.
I earn £125 a week, take home £125 a week. I manage because I have to manage. I'm a widow with 2 small children, and I need my job, I have to work.
The poorly paid are given some protection by the wages councils, groups of employers, union officials and employees which meet to set minimum rates for varying groups of workers. But the government admits it doesn't like them, saying they have no permanent place in the labour market, although it has no formal plans to abolish them at the moment. But the TUC says if they do go, the poorest could simply become poorer.
For an awful lot of very poorly paid workers indeed, often in ununionised workplaces, wages councils are the only real protection against some quite disgracefully low wages. I wouldn't want to predict that Wales is going to fall any further behind. We are bottom of the league table now. We can't actually get much worse, can we?
Welsh youngsters have been learning how to become pop stars and scientists at the Eisteddfod today. But there was also a more serious side to the main event of the day, the chair competition. The theme was disaster, and top prize went to Llandysil teacher Kerry Wyn Jones, who wrote about the death of 5 young friends in a car crash.
The Science Pavilion at the Eisteddfod in Rhuthun is perhaps one of the best examples of the new hands-on approach to learning. It also marks an important step in providing alternatives to the traditional image of Welsh culture, especially to secondary school children who dominated competitions today.
I think it's very important that science is shown to be something that's enjoyable, and especially in Wales, as like you say, we tend to bracket things to be clog dancing or cerddant or whatever. But science can be done in Welsh and can be enjoyable in Welsh.
Nearly 5,000 youngsters from across Wales have been put up in homes in the Rhuthun area over the course of the week, and many no doubt spent some time in the popular Ewrock tent, where bands perform and would-be Eric Claptons let their talents rip at rock workshops. In the main pavilion, however, a literary craftsman received the highest possible praise for his work. Aberteifi teacher Kerry Wyn Jones was awarded the coveted chair for his moving poem entitled Chwalfa, or Disaster, in which he describes the horror of a car crash which killed 5 youngsters from his community.
The first draft was very difficult because it was reliving emotions which I'd experienced at the time, and was opening scars, not just my own scars at all, but the scars of the families and the scars which the whole area felt.
Did you think it helped you in terms of coming to terms with that grief?
I should think it probably did. I might not have been aware of it, but I should think, yes. I mean, to pour it all out, it was probably a good thing.
On the Eisteddfod field today, however, the mood was of celebration, as these youngsters from Lixham and Clwyd demonstrated.
Got you. And from music to sport now, and tonight a mixed bag for you with athletics, golf and the second day of the milk race. Here's Bob.
Thanks, Hugh. And first in the international arena, Colin Jackson goes against his old rival, double Olympic champion Roger Kingdom in Germany tonight. Jackson won the Welsh title over 110 metres hurdles in the respectable early season time of 13.45 on Saturday, after warming up indoors over the winter. This victory came over the USA.
Splendid start by Jackson, bulleted away from the block. Jackson leads, Ridgeon going well as well for Britain here. Jackson in the lead, and I think Ridgeon dipped for second place ahead of the American. 7.61 the winning time.
Moving on to golf, and Pontypridd's Phil Price shot at 2 under par 70 on day 1 of the Dunhill British Masters at Woburn, 4 behind the early leader Ove Selberg of Sweden. Ian Woosnam, though, I'm afraid to say, still struggling, 4 over par now, playing the 17th. Newport's Matthew Postle, riding for Great Britain, made his mark on stage 4 of the milk race today out of Aberystwyth. He pulled along Gary Baker of the GB Pros team into an early lead over the Plynlimmon Pass. This, a second category climb just after the start, covering almost 4 miles. It's stamina, though, that counts in this pretty tough sport. Today's stage, 115 miles to Newcastle under Lyme, and the Continentals again dominated. A fairy tale day, in fact, for Christian Andersen of Denmark, who won in just under 4 hours and 50 minutes. Andersen now second overall, behind new leader, the Belgian Willy Willems, who today displaced fellow countryman Peter Verbecken.
Thanks, Bob. Let's have a look at the headlines now with Jackie. Detectives in North Wales are investigating the death of a 32-year-old woman who was found stabbed through the heart at Penmaen Mawr in Gwynedd. 2 Cardiff policemen have been brutally attacked by men with a machete and a claw hammer as they tried to break up a fight. A watching crowd jeered as they were kicked and beaten. A post-mortem has revealed that 15-year-old Daniel Yoroth, the son of the Wales soccer manager, died of a rare heart disease which normally affects elderly people. And finally, a Cardiff cleaner collected another ornament for her mantelpiece today. And this is one she won't mind dusting. Joan Clatworthy has received the British Empire Medal after setting a sparkling example at the Ely Health Centre.
Joan Clatworthy has been cleaner in charge at Ely Health Centre since 1977. But no one was more surprised than her when she heard the Queen had actually taken a shine to her work. And today she was again rubbing shoulders with the top brass when the Lord Lieutenant, Captain Norman Lloyd Edwards, was on hand to present the British Empire Medal.
Did you ever expect to get an honour like this?
No, I mean, it never enters your head, does it? You know, I mean, this is the sort of thing that happens to other people. I mean, you just never, ever expect that it'll happen to you. But it's, you know, it's very nice to think that the high-ups notice what you're doing and appreciate what you're trying to do.
And it's really about service. And she's given that service to the health service and to the public and the community around Ely. And we're absolutely delighted. And we share in her pride today at having this award.
Now Mrs. Clatworthy is looking forward to a trip to Buckingham Palace. But there's just one snag.
Look out for a new hat, yes, well, a new outfit.
Yes, a polished day for Joan. That's it from me. A very good evening to you.
There'll be showers and thunderstorms rumbling around through the night with heavy rain for some places. It'll be mild and muggy as well, the temperature dropping no lower than about 13 degrees, but there'll be a gusty wind under any storms. There'll still be some showers and thunderstorms drifting around tomorrow, and they're going to keep some places rather cool. However, we should see some sunshine here and there, and that could lift the temperature to 21 degrees in some spots. And the summary: heavy showers and thunderstorms, and there could even be some local flooding.
Motorists crossing the Severn have paid over £100 million in tolls. Now a private consortium will collect another £1 billion. An unfair tax on South Wales. Wales and Westminster this week reports on the rising price of crossing the Severn.
In a few minutes, we join Bob Holness for tonight's blockbusters.